you have to like them and you have to trust them. And you have to look at them as more of a business partner and an advisor to your career as well. I think the more that you, and again, not everyone's going to be perfect, but I think a lot of the kind of brainstorming, grab a glass of wine and a bite to eat and just kind of like jam about things, that's what I think is very helpful. I'm empathetic for the creator lifestyle. It's very boring and can become very lonely, and you become very confused at the direction. Where it's just like one black room with lots of kind of sparkly lights and you don't really know where to look and how to get there and what you're doing. So being able to have somebody that you can just kind of like throw ideas off of and that can take the time to just talk, I think that's overlooked and underappreciative. And then based on that conversation, you have to trust that advice of what they're saying and how they're saying it and what they're saying are things that, take everything with a grain of salt, but you have to trust that what they're saying is the right thing to say.
Before we dive into the conversation with Darren, we need to start with a quick disclaimer. This video provides general financial education and is not personalized investment advice or solicitation for advisory services. Please consult with a qualified professional for advice tailored for your situation. Any references to specific securities, products, or strategies do not constitute a recommendation or endorsement. All right, let's dive into a conversation with Darren Glover. You mentioning approaching the brand with an idea reminded me of a creator. The deal didn't end up going through, but I was working with a creator and their team to produce a series of content, and it was some of the most creative that I had seen. And they approached me about it. They were like, hey, we have this idea, and here's the portfolio of things that we've done in the past with other companies, and this is how well it performed. And I loved the genuine interest to make something that was unique. And it was for far more money than we would have traditionally paid. But we were very, very close to doing that because it was so unique. And so I think that that's something that I think a lot of creators miss. They can go into the meeting just saying, yes, thank God I have a sponsorship. Finally, I can pay some bills this week. Versus how can I 5X the amount that we are working together? How can we deepen this relationship with this brand and do so in a way that is not just a sponsorship, but something that people will actually watch, that you can show higher engagement amounts through the analytics. And then you have a perfect case study to be able to take to the next brand and build these deeper and deeper relationships. There have only been, of the hundreds of creators that I've worked with, there have only been maybe a handful that really stood out as far as like the approach to how they're trying to work with the brand. And that's nothing against the other 95%. They're great creators and I still worked with them, but there was just something different. And so, yeah, I think that's excellent advice.
I mean, the ones that make the decisions are not necessarily
yeah.
the audience that's watching your videos. The level of expectation that we have when we work with a creator that has, it's averaging 50 to 200 concurrent viewers on Twitch, that has 50,000 followers on TikTok, that's averaging anywhere from 2.5 to 10,000 views per video. If our sponsored piece of content gets 3,000 to 3,500 views on it, and the stream was, in their average numbers, that's not what's unique. That's what we're expecting. So how do you become memorable and unique is all in that process to get there. So like, even if they just said yes to it and just maybe they would have got the same amount, but you didn't become memorable. So as the agency that you're working with, or if you're working with the brand direct, you're also, again, you're in this mindset. You're not the creator. You're the manager or the business development person. And as you know, in the world of business development, all you're looking for is just that one little piece of something that makes you memorable and unique, that you stay top of mind in some way, shape, or form. That when I think of, as the agency or the brand, who I'm going to work with, I remember you. And if working with creators, you just put a little, you fold the page over on their face, and like you put them to the side as like, I really enjoyed working with this creator. The content didn't have 8 million views, because I wasn't expecting that. And like in the world of creators, you're not putting your entire company's future marketing goals in the hands of one micro-sized creator. So like you also have to swallow the pride as a smaller creator to say they're going to work with another 100 creators this year. I'm 1% of all of their creators that they're going to work this year. How can I become 1% on paper, but an 18% equitable stake in their brain? When they think of creators, they're always going to want to work with me. Even though I'm one of 100, they're going to work with me 5 times this year versus someone else they're only going to work with twice. And because of that volume play, I'm going to be working with this brand over the next 24 or 36 months, yada, 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 because they want to work with me because I am good at working with them. Like, that's what I think this world of creator economy doesn't understand is like, it's also not just about the output. It's how good were you to get to the output. We just had this big launch with clicks and Feastables, but it's like, again, I'm talking about ourselves, but I would think that the Feastables team would say, we were fun to work with. Like, we're really collaborative, like we're responsive, we're thinking outside the box, that's a good partnership and relationship to have rather than us being really difficult to work with, but the outcome is really great. Brands and agencies don't want to work with difficult processes to get to good outcomes. They would rather work with really great processes to get to an average outcome versus really difficult and great. Like I wholeheartedly would believe that because you spend more time building the thing than you do showcasing the thing. That's just the honest truth. So 10 months out of the year, I hate working with you. And then something gets launched and it does really good. I still don't want to ever work with you again. And word's going to start to get around that you're not someone that people should work with. Like, your career will have a diminishing return because of that, rather than, boy, that was awesome. It didn't work as well as we thought it did, but let's figure out why it didn't work. But we loved working with you. I would much rather have that feedback than the alternative.
Spot on. And for people who may not know my background, I worked from the brand perspective with creators for past, 4 years, 5 years now at this point. And there were definitely creators that I thought the content would do well, but I did not think that it would be a enjoyable experience, as Darren is saying here. And so we declined. There were a couple of creators that we declined deals with simply because either the conversations that we were having felt sloppy. They weren't taking the relationship seriously. They weren't taking themselves seriously or the content. Or there was some kind of dynamic with the campaign itself that it just didn't feel right. And word moves quickly through brands as well. There are only a handful of people who are representing talent from the brand side, or working with talent from the brand side. And those people know each other. And so the industry becomes very, very small. And I think that it is important for especially up and coming creators to set themselves apart. Just having like a pitch deck is something that 98% of creators don't do. Having representation is something that most don't have. And Darren, working with you, I can say that it's like you're extremely shrewd whenever it comes to your work with creators and the people that you represent. And I always appreciate that. And so I guess at what point does having representation make sense from a content creator perspective? And maybe from your perspective, I know that you have a very different approach from most agents or talent managers, but from your perspective, what should creators be looking for whenever it comes to representation?
I think you have to know what you don't know and don't have, which sounds crazy to say out loud. I don't even think I understand what I just said, but like, to break it down, I think most creators think that agents and managers, one, that they're all the same. So I don't really have to talk with multiple ones to figure out who I want to work with. And then based on who I work with, somehow dollars just magically start to appear when I start to work with a manager and an agent, that they have this magic potion that somehow the second that I sign with them, I made it. I'm going to get all this cool stuff, and that whole pitch deck that they told me about, all the cool stuff that the agency has done and the management firm has done, that's all just going to start to happen around me. And I think a lot of times creators take their foot off the gas a little bit and think, oh man, like they're going to do all this stuff for me. Really bad. Everything I just said is horrible. And I think that's what a lot of creators think about, rather than the vice versa of understanding what managers and agents do so you can ask the right questions, and talking with lots of agents and managers as much as you can and asking those simple, stupid questions. So you're starting to understand in your life as a creator, in addition to talking with other creators, to ask, hey, you have an agent and a manager, like what do they do for you? And what's your process and career been like with them? What are the things that you like about it? What do they don't like? Like, you've got to start to do your own research so that you feel like more of, when as a buyer, you're an informed buyer for your agent. Like, you're doing your own research so that you can step into those meetings and calls and understand the other side of the room. So I think that's for sure number one. And then number two is how to find a good one. You have to like them and you have to trust them. And you have to look at them as more of a business partner and an advisor to your career as well. I think the more that you, and again, not everyone's going to be perfect, but I think a lot of the kind of brainstorming, grab a glass of wine and a bite to eat and just kind of like jam about things. That's what I think is very helpful. I'm empathetic for the creator lifestyle. It's very boring and can become very lonely, and you become very confused at the direction. Where it's just like one black room with lots of kind of sparkly lights and you don't really know where to look and how to get there and what you're doing. So being able to have somebody that you can just kind of like throw ideas off of and that can take the time to just talk, I think that's overlooked and underappreciative. And then based on that conversation, you have to trust that advice of what they're saying and how they're saying it and what they're saying are things that, take everything with a grain of salt, but you have to trust that what they're saying is the right thing to say. And then at the end of the day, it's performance. After working with somebody for 6 to 12 months, have they done the thing that they said that they promised that they were going to do? It can't be just monetarily driven. And if you don't get the amount of sponsorship deals that you thought you would have gotten, you also can't be first to point the finger at you. Like you sometimes have to say, what could I have done to drive more revenue for myself? And it can't be a they screwed up mentality. And a lot of times you find those creators that they've bounced to 3 different agencies. And it's like, at a certain point, ladies and gentlemen, you got to just look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's not a them thing. It might be a you thing at the end of the day. And I think that's also like the transparency that you have to have in the relationship between your agent and the talent for the talent to be able to go to the agent and ask and have the, empathy for the agent to say, if you're disturbed that you're not getting enough deals, it's not a why am I not getting deals? It's a what can I do to help you sell me in the marketplace? That's a powerful question that I don't think enough creators talk about. What am I not doing that I could be doing that would help sell me? And on your last conversation you had about me, what's been the feedback? Like why am I not getting these deals? And I want to know that feedback that I can make myself a hotter prospect, better for you in the marketplace. Like that's what I think a lot of the conversation should be like. And I don't think those conversations are happening, unfortunately, not for anyone's blame, but it's just because people are unexperienced and there aren't, forums and thought leadership sessions that help explain that. But just that simple question, I would love for that to be asked way more by creators, and hopefully someone listening can take that question and totally turn their sponsorship revenue around because they simply asked what they can do to help their agent rather than thinking that their agent is this, Jesus Christ figure of revenue that just came down from the heavens above and are just going to flower me with millions of dollars. That's not how it works. You have to have this collaborative effort in order to drive revenue in sponsorships.
I think it's very prudent for creators to hire representation when they get to the point where
Correct.
they can. And what you just said is so profound that I have to linger on it for a second, because the creator, even though you hire someone to assist you, you're still in charge. You are still the CEO of your organization, whether you like it or not. Whether you hire that talent manager or that agent thinking that, they're just going to handle all of this stuff, I don't have to think about it anymore. No,
Correct.
You still do. You're still the CEO. It's like hiring a sales individual on a team as a CEO and then just not really caring about sales anymore. That sounds just as absurd. And so for the creators who maybe aren't as business minded, it's still extremely important to ask questions to increase your skills, to be able to understand what it is that they're saying, to understand what it is that you could be doing differently in order to be able to help them. You still have to do the work, even if you're not actually talking with the brands, if that makes sense. That's really profound.
It is.
More creators need to understand that for sure. If you enjoyed this segment, be sure to check out the full conversation that I had with Darren Glover. I'll leave a link down in the description to the full video. If you like this video, I would genuinely appreciate a like on the video and subscribe to see more content like it. Have a great week. I'll see you in the next video.